nation. But the new republic was beset with problems from the day it was born. Prominent among these were debt, political factionalism, Indians, and ongoing hostilities with Mexico. Texas' first president, Sam Houston, dealt with the money shortage by being frugal. The revolution against Mexico had put Texas more than $1 million in debt, big money in the mid-19th century. Houston kept expenses down by making peace with the Indians rather than paying a militia to fight them. Houston also resisted calls to invade Mexico, knowing it would be economically disastrous. The fledgling nation simply could not afford an army equal to the task. The Republic's next president, Mirabal B. Lamar, was a spendthrift and antagonistic toward both Indians and Mexico. Lamar undertook the removal of all Indians by force and very nearly succeeded, except for the Comanches. At the Council House fight in Boston, the Comanches lost 35 of their tribe in what they regarded as a treacherous attack by whites during peace negotiations. The betrayal would make the tribe a scourge on the Texas frontier for another 35 years. Lamar also took a more belligerent stance toward Mexico, which, despite Santa Anna's promise, refused to recognize Texas independence. In retaliation, Lamar also commissioned the Santa Fe expedition. He hoped this group of soldiers and merchants would encourage Santa Fe to break away from Mexico, or at the very least, open a trade route to Texas that would compete with the Santa Fe Trail to St. Louis. The Santa Fe expedition was a disaster, however. Its members were arrested when they arrived in Santa Fe, then force-marched to Mexico City and imprisoned. Many died, only a few made it back to Texas. After seeing the public debt skyrocket for little apparent gain, Texans again picked Sam Houston as president. Houston once more made peace with the Indians, but he had his hands full in dealing with hotheads who wanted to attack Mexico, mainly because Mexico once again invaded Texas. Houston was forced to respond, but he discouraged the Texas Army from pursuing the Mexican force past the border. A group of about 300, however, was spoiling for a war and crossed the Rio Grande to attack the town of Mier. There, the foolhardy group was captured by a superior Mexican force and marched to Mexico City. Santa Anna ordered every 10th man executed. The appropriate number of black beans and white beans were poured into a pot. The unlucky Texans who drew a black bean were shot. After this, war fever in Texas cooled considerably. Knowing that Texas' best hope for survival was annexation of the United States, Houston worked hard to achieve that goal. He shrewdly improved ties with Britain and France, knowing that legislators in Washington did not want a strong republic with foreign ties blocking U.S. expansion toward the Pacific. In 1845, the next president of Texas, Anson Jones, oversaw the fulfillment of Houston's dream. Texas became the 20th member of the United States of America. Sam Houston knew what was good for Texas, but Texans wouldn't listen. The old warrior who was elected governor in 1859 maneuvered tirelessly to prevent secession. But Texas was a slave state, and most Texans were convinced that Abe Lincoln was messing with their rights, whether they owned slaves or not. So they voted to leave the Union. Houston refused to sign an oath of loyalty to the Confederacy and was removed from office. Lincoln had offered Houston 50,000 troops with which he could keep Texas in the Union, but Houston refused, saying, "I love Texas too well to bring strife and bloodshed upon it." When the Civil War began, Texas sided with the South. During the war, Texas suffered less than most of the Confederacy. Except for some coastal cities, Union troops did not set foot in the state. But Texas did contribute more than its share of troops and supplies to the Confederacy. Texas ports were important to the South, especially Brownsville. With most of its ports blockaded or occupied by the Union, the South eventually could export its cotton only through Brownsville and across the Rio Grande to the Mexican port of Matamoros. Union blockaders could not stop foreign ships carrying Mexican cotton. When Union troops briefly seized Brownsville, the cotton trail was shifted north, where it crossed the Rio Grande at Eagle Pass and Laredo. From there, the bales moved back down the Rio Grande to Matamoros. One of the men to benefit most from this wartime cotton trade was ranching tycoon Richard King. As a young man, King had been a Rio Grande riverboat pilot and had gone on to become a partner in a steamship company. With the money he earned from this venture, he founded the King Ranch and made another fortune in cattle. In other action along the Texas coast, the Union seized Galveston and blockaded Sabine Pass near Beaumont. With the help of steamships, humorously dubbed cottonclads, the Texas Confederates retook Galveston and broke the blockade at Sabine Pass. Aboard the steamers, snipers protected by bales of cotton lining the rails poured a deadly rain of fire over the Union ships. Coupled with a land attack at Galveston and a shore battery at Sabine Pass, the Confederates cleared the upper coast of Union forces for the duration of the war. One indication of how far removed Texas was from the main focus of the war came on May 13, 1865. Not knowing that Robert E. Lee had surrendered at Appomattox more than a month earlier, Confederate troops met and defeated the Union force at Palmito Ranch near Brownsville. Thus, the last battle of the Civil War was fought on Texas soil.